I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for October 14th, 2024. If you would please stand as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Jenny Snell,
Present.
Scott Ohm,
Here.
Rachel Holteen,
Present.
Amanda Weaver. Here. Corey Stites.
Here.
Janice Hoppy,
Present.
Dan Larson,
Here.
Leah Dozman.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilors, in your package, you have City Council meeting minutes for the September the 23rd of 2024. Are there any corrections or changes to be noted in the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as submitted by our clerk with our thanks. Are there any modifications to be noted to the agenda? None noted, so we will move with the agenda as presented. And we have one proclamation tonight. I'll go to the And if I could ask Director DeAndrea to join me at the podium. Tonight we have a proclamation recognizing Judy and Dave Pighetti, who are not able to join us tonight, but the Director DeAndrea is going to stand in for them tonight. So this is recognizing Judy and Dave Pighetti for 19 years of volunteer service to the Ridge Rangers Adopt a Road program. Whereas Judy and Dave Pighetti desired to provide a cleaner and more aesthetically pleasing environment for themselves and their neighbors, and volunteered for the city's Adopt a Road program in 2005. And whereas the Adopt a Road program, also known as Ridge Rangers, fosters a sense of community pride and responsibility while also improving the visual appeal of roads, thus making them more inviting for residents and visitors. And whereas Judy and Dave cleaned up roadsides of 38th Avenue between Kipling and Wadsworth Boulevard at least once a month for the past 19 years. And whereas volunteers like Dave and Judy help to keep roadsides free of litter, thus reducing pollution and protecting local wildlife habitats and ecosystems. Now, therefore, I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the Wheat Ridge City Council, do hereby recognize Judy and Dave Pighetti for their 19 years of valuable service to our community. Your dedication is truly commendable. Volunteers often form friendships through their participation in programs like Road Rangers, which in turn strengthen our community bonds. We are grateful for the difference you have made. Dated this 14th day of October 2024. And we have a nice plaque here, and I want to, you'll grab that one, and I'll grab this one, and we'll pull this out. It's a very nice, nice plaque here. We'll put that on the screen at home, and something like this. Thank you very much. I'll put this with it. Okay, thank you. Oh. Thank you. We are now at our public's right to speak, and the public may come and speak with their speak on any item not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. When I call your name, if you'd please come to the podium and give us your first name and last name. If you'd please spell your last name for the record and tell us whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. So our first speaker tonight is Richard Schuster, and Mary Veggie is on deck. Please come right up here. The microphone should be live.
Thank you. I'm Richard Schuster, S-H-U-S-T-E-R. I asked to speak in front of you tonight simply because I'm a write-in candidate for the RTD Board of Directors, District M. Made this introduction to a number of city councils, and it was interesting. My first one was golden when I spoke in favor of the debrucing of for RTD's ballot initiative, and I realized that as I was a little nervous, that I was speaking to people that had actually been a first-time candidate in your career. By education, I'm a petroleum engineer. The majority of my work has been in distress situations. However, my RTD experience and why I'm qualified for the board, I've driven for RTD on a part-time basis for 5 years. And on the other end of the coin, I came in top 5 the last 2 times the CEO position was opened up. The first time RTD was truly a distress situation. Dave Genova got the job, stopped the digging. Fast forward, he retired and Deborah Johnson took over. A lot of things have happened in a positive way with Ms. Johnson. They still need to keep moving forward. Communication is one of the 2 top priorities I have. The other is safety, but coming out of the oil business, safety is always the #1 priority. Communication, we all saw, as an example, they had a press release when they tore up the downtown tracks for the light rail, and everybody grumbled, but they understood. The Southeast light rail, its slowdowns, people found out when the snails passed them en route to the next stop. No communication there. The media's had a field day with it. I think those levels of communication, letting people know, are some of the paramount things that need to be accomplished. Personally, I think if anybody's been to a basketball game in the district, I've refereed basketball for 50 years, and it's interesting as I looked around, places like the barn over at Wheat Ridge, Golden, Jefferson, all the schools within District M are on my favorite schools list. Again, if I'm elected, if I'm elected, I will be the point person. I take ownership in the groups I represent, so I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to put a face with a yard sign. I know what protocol is, but if there are any clarifying questions,
Okay. Thank you very much.
thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Our next speaker is Mary Fedge.
Good evening. My name is Mary Fedge. I live at 3465 Estes Street. It's spelled F-E-D-J-E. And I'm here to talk about 2B and 2C on the ballot issue, which people will be voting on over the next 2 weeks. And 2B is one I'm most concerned with. It covers the massive charter changes that will be happening. And I encourage everyone, before you vote, please go online, look under the Wheat Ridge website, go under legal documents, and pull up the 38-page red line charter changes that you need to read before you vote. And not to mention, it's like on the ballot, it says they're just getting rid of redundancy and just cleaning up a little clerical work. Well, the first page of that charter has the word citizen 7 times. It's replaced with the word resident. So are we telling people that they no longer have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in the city of Wheat Ridge? And then you look further into it, and you have the change of the occupancy. You used to have 3 people that were unrelated that were allowed to occupy 1 unit. Now it will be wiped out, and unlimited number can occupy that residence. And we are going to be they're wanting 21 units per acre for that development. So if you look at the development of the Lutheran development, it's over 100 acres. So you're talking, do the math on that one, it's massive. And then if you look at the massive power that they're turning over to the city manager, they're even taking out the word mayor, and the city manager will make a lot of the decisions that are going to be happening. That's what I was getting from reading this charter. And if you look at further and you get people passing that 2C, then you look further, it says that city council and a city manager can change it at their discretion for the city of Wheat Ridge to go as high and as dense as they would like, depending on how they choose to look at that development. I'm not happy with this, because I look at it as it's time for the citizens of Wheat Ridge to push back. They wanted to put in a Walmart on 38th and Wadsworth. We pushed back, got it to a much better development for that corner. Then they wanted to do a 64-unit apartment complex on 32nd and Kipling. Again, the citizens pushed back, and we ended up with 13 high-end homes that turned out much more suitable for that area. It kept the traffic low, it kept the property values high, and from what I understand, the developer ended up making plenty of money on that development. He even, from what I understand, he lives in one. And last but not least, remember when they wanted to do the 2-story marijuana facility on 38th and Kipling, 1 block away from the junior high? And again, the citizens of Wheat Ridge pushed back. I encourage everyone, push back on this high-density development that they want to put in over at Lutheran. It's time for us to keep our citizens in control of the city. Vote no on 2B and 2C. Keep the power here. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Those are all the speakers that I have signed up to speak, so we will go to our next item, which is agenda item number 1. Councillor Hoppe, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 20-2024, an ordinance amending section 11-534 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning tobacco retail businesses. At issue, the code prohibits tobacco product retailers from operating within 1,000 feet of a youth-oriented facility such as schools, parks, recreation facilities, etc. The grandfathering clause of Code 11-534D nevertheless exempts those retailers who were in place on the effective date of Ordinance 1710, Series 2021, which created the 1,000-foot limit. However, if that retailer sells the business, the buyer of the business is not eligible for the grandfathering protection of that code section. Councilmember Hoppe, Dozman, and Hulteen requested that council consider an ordinance expanding the grandfathering scope of 11-534D to include purchasers of a protected location. Council provided consensus to proceed with the code amendment on September 9th, 2024.
Thank you. This will be an ordinance on second reading. It is not quasi-judicial. It is a public hearing, and I'm going to open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. City Attorney will add a little bit more summary to this.
Okay, Mr. Dahl.
Thank you very much. The summary is good, and let me just add a few additional points. As was mentioned, this is a restriction that you see for liquor and other kinds of uses from schools and youth facilities. And the city adopted this particular provision in April of 2021 and recognized at the time that there would have been tobacco vendors within 1,000 feet of a school or a youth-oriented facility, and created an exception for those businesses within that circle. However, that exception did not apply then to a successor purchaser of the business, and this ordinance adds that exception. So it really reflects, it's hard to read probably in the ordinance itself, it's an extensive section, but it adds a second exception, so you can be a successor in interest to a retailer who was in place on, it'll be April the 12th, 2021. If you are a purchaser from that retailer and purchasing that business, then you are similarly exempt. It doesn't exempt you from having to apply for the business license, et cetera, and otherwise be properly authorized to conduct business, but you can buy that license basically, or buy that business and continue to be eligible. I will tell you that the retailer of particular concern here, one of his employees has come to the council a couple of times to advocate for this, and I'm informed that the business owner, Mr. Canal, is here in the audience tonight. I don't think he intends to speak. I don't think we have someone signed up, but I wanted to recognize that he's here. His employees have been here supporting this, and he's here tonight also supporting the ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. Any others? Is that all the staff presentation? Okay. I have no members of the public signed up to speak on this, so we'll go to questions from council. Councillor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dahl, can you just please clarify that because someone is purchasing a business that is already in business that sells tobacco, that person also still has to go through all the state qualifications to be able to qualify for a license? It doesn't just transfer the license to that person's name?
That's exactly right. And in fact, the language of that code section later on says you may apply for a license. So you're eligible to apply. And previously, of course, you weren't eligible because you were not a successor. As a successor, you weren't eligible, but we've made those successors eligible then to apply for a license.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions before I close the public hearing and ask for a motion? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. And Councilor Hoppe, may I have a motion on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 20-2024, an ordinance amending Section 11534 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning tobacco retail businesses, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication as provided by Section 5.11 of the Charter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Dozeman. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Oh, Councilor Hoppe, excuse me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, clarify that this was part of the original discussion in our original consensus, was that when we were making the new section of the code, we discussed that if someone were to, and you can qualify it through tobacco sales or even like tires. If someone was selling a tire shop and then they were told they weren't allowed to do brakes anymore, that's a significant piece of their business. It was not our intent to disqualify quality businesses or locally owned businesses or legacy businesses in our community.
Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will now go to agenda item number 2. Mayor Pro Tem Stites, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 21-2024, an ordinance amending relevant sections of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning the city's general business licensing requirements. At issue, this ordinance makes several amendments to the city's business licensing code. These changes are designed to ensure compliance with the state legislation, transition to biannual business licensing renewals, introduce an inspection fee, and consolidate certain special licenses with regular business licenses.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading. It is not quasi-judicial, but it is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 21-2024, an ordinance amending relevant sections of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning the city's general licensing requirements. Order it published. Public hearing set for Monday, October 28th at 6:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication as provided by Section 5.11 of the Charter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Hoppe. Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 3. Councilor Dozeman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, Council Bill number 22-2024, an ordinance adopting a new Article 6 in Chapter 13 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning automated vehicle identification systems. Traffic issues, primarily excessive speeds and red light violations, are a continual complaint from the public. Residents contact various departments, primarily the police department, to request speed and other traffic enforcement on their streets to address the increased hazards these violations tend to create. Wheat Ridge is a smaller community impacted by major roadways and highways often used by community members and non-community members alike. This volume of traffic makes it difficult for an agency sized to serve the community of residents and businesses to adequately meet the demands of traffic control and safety. The use of technology in law enforcement continues to be one of the more impactful changes to modern-day policing. One of those innovative technologies that is expanding nationwide is the use of automated vehicle identification systems, AVIS. Staff is requesting City Council to adopt a new Article 6 in Chapter 13 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to allow for the use of AVIS in Wheat Ridge to address these traffic concerns.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. It is not quasi-judicial. May I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve Council Bill number 22-2024, an ordinance adopting a new Article 6, Chapter 13 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning automated vehicle identification systems. Order it published. Public hearing set for Monday, October 28th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication as provided by Section 5.11 of the Charter.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Ohm. Will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will go now to agenda item number 4. Councilor Hulteen, would you please introduce this item?
Oh, it would be my pleasure. I would like to introduce resolution number 47-2024, a resolution adopting the 2024 Sustainability Action Plan update. At issue, sustainability is an important issue within the city of Wheat Ridge, impacting municipal operations, businesses, and residents alike. Staff have been working to update the initial 2018 Sustainability Action Plan, and this resolution would adopt the 2024 Sustainability Action Plan update, a 5-year roadmap as city policy to guide future decisions and actions affecting sustainability efforts throughout the city.
Thank you. This will be a resolution of the council. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We do. Mary Hester, our sustainability coordinator, is here this evening. I think we have some members of our sustainability committee also. Mary?
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm excited to be here tonight to present the final 2024 Sustainability Action Plan update. This plan represents a significant milestone in Wheat Ridge's sustainability journey, built on the foundation of years of dedicated work by the Sustainable Wheat Ridge Committee, city staff, and the Wheat Ridge community. The original action plan was created in 2018 after hundreds of hours of work from the Sustainable Wheat Ridge Committee. And since then, the committee and staff have collaborated to implement its strategies. And I'm proud to say that as of earlier this year, 64% of that original plan had either been completed or initiated. And this updated version builds upon that foundation, refining and expanding our goals to guide the next 5 years of sustainability efforts in Wheat Ridge. Over the past several months, working alongside our consultant, Lotus Engineering and Sustainability, we've been able to engage closely with other city departments, staff, leadership, and the community to ensure that we've gained buy-in and that the goals and strategies within this plan are not only ambitious, but are also actionable and realistic. And so as a quick reminder, the plan continues to focus on the 6 core areas established in the 2018 action plan, and those are communications and engagement, renewable energy, solid waste and recycling, water, transportation, and green building and energy efficiency. And in addition to those, we are also introducing 2 new focus areas that reflect our evolving priorities: arts and culture and businesses and jobs. And these additions will help us better connect with the community and support our local economy in sustainable ways. At the August 19th study session, Council provided suggestions for a couple of minor changes. And so since then, we've made sure that the plan is more inclusive of renters, mostly through tweaking the goals and strategies in the renewable energy and energy efficiency and green building focus areas. And we also added strategies to further clarify how we will achieve the green business-oriented goals in the businesses and jobs section. And aside from those updates and adding the final graphic design to the plan, it's the same as when you saw it at your last review. And so to wrap it up, staff recommends the adoption of this plan. Thank you again for your time and your ongoing commitment to Wheat Ridge's sustainability efforts. And I am available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. We have no members of the public signed up to speak on this, so I'll go to questions from council. Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know the answer to this, but I'm just asking a little bit rhetorically. So what we're doing tonight is actually adopting this plan. And just clarifying, the previous plan was not adopted by City Council, but rather was completed by the committee and yet still accomplished a lot within it. So I'm just asking for clarification. This would be our first adopted sustainable action plan by the city.
Yes, that is correct. The first one.
Great. Thank you.
Additional questions or discussions before we move to a motion? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hester. Councilor Hulteen, may I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve resolution 47-2024, a resolution adopting the 2024 Sustainability Action Plan update.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Stice. Do we have discussion on the motion? Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, members of the committee and all the staff who's worked on this. Mary touched on it in her comments, but what we have in front of us tonight is a sustainability action plan that has been thoroughly informed by our community and championed by our sustainability committee. It is an extraordinary brain trust of people who have both the skill, but the dedication and passion to make sure that the Wheat Ridge that we really love and appreciate today is a place for future generations. And the only way to get there is through a stalwart commitment to sustainability, climate, and our resources. I think what we have in front of us is a really well-vetted plan. I really liked the adjectives that Mary used: ambitious, actionable, and realistic. Pie in the sky sustainability policies and ideas sound exciting, but if you can't actually take action on them, then they don't convert into the benefits we need to see in our community. So I am incredibly proud of what this is. I think the way it's structured really works across all departments in our city. I'm really grateful that this plan is actually within the city manager's office, so that all of our department staff has direction to work with it. And as council, I just want to thank my peers for supporting this work. It's been a little bit heavy on my heart that we haven't had an adopted sustainability plan before tonight. So as you can imagine, I'm enthusiastically supporting this, but the real work's ahead of us as we, as the ideas that are in here, the specific strategies and actions come forward, for us to really continue to use it as a guidepost, and to look not just for what staff brings forward, but for us to look at it as where we need to prioritize our actions moving forward. So just want to thank everyone, and I cannot wait to push the green button tonight, because a green button is the right button to push for a sustainability plan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I might, I have a statement I'd like to read on this issue. After careful review, I find that I cannot support resolution number 47-2024, adopting the 2024 Sustainability Action Plan update. There is much in the plan that provides useful guidance, especially its emphasis on gaining the support of residents from neighborhoods across the city. Any policy plan is only as good as the credibility and the support given to it by residents, businesses, and staff. There are, however, several deficiencies in the plan, and at least 2 omissions that are glaring because they are so significant. The first issue of concern is an apparent lack of formal support from the previous plan by council. The update plan makes several references to council gratefully accepting, but not formally approving, the sustainability report in June 2018. When I reviewed council meeting minutes from that time, I did find that at a study session on June 18th, 2018, council was presented a report by members of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. At that time, council raised questions about some of the unsupported assumptions made in the report and about potential conflicts with sustainability plan objectives and the city's affordable housing goals. At the mayor's request, council consented to receive the report with thanks, but took recommendations under advisement and to discuss implementation at a later time. That consent apparently provided the city with a green light to continue developing policies that, without formal support of council, lack support from important constituencies across the city. Implementation of the 2018 plan proceeded over the following years, and several of its goals are now in place, which brings me to today's discussion. On page 39 of our agenda packet, the staff memo outlines next steps in the implementation of the action plan update. The first item calls for presentation to council of a climate emergency resolution, the text of which I have not yet seen. Referring to climate issues in Wheat Ridge as an emergency is an exaggeration bordering on hyperbole. Overall, the 44-page action plan update report is well presented, colorful, and represents many hours of hard work. My review found that the contents of the full report are summarized quite well in the attached 17-page memo issued this summer by Lotus Engineering and Sustainability, a consulting firm contracted to shepherd the update project to a conclusion. I commend the effort made to dig out the knowledge and opinions of council, city staff, the Sustainability Committee, and our residents. However, the report lacks authentic representation of the business community, and the participation of entire neighborhoods is largely missing. Early in the consultant's memo, it notes that what the city's priorities should be: water conservation, air quality, transportation, specifically more bike lanes, and cutting-edge alternative energy technologies such as geothermal. Geothermal is an energy source that has actually been around for a very long time. The list of priorities This list of priorities is where it becomes very clear that there are three important issues largely omitted from the plan. In order to provide the city with a sustainable future, Wheat Ridge policy must aim to strengthen its utility infrastructure. The inspection and repair of stormwater drainage in older neighborhoods should be obvious, but the plan gives that only passing mention. Nowhere in the plan is the local power grid even mentioned. Building resilience into a sustainability plan should somehow include motivating Xcel Energy to inspect and repair its above-ground power grid to avoid the sort of widespread power failures we saw last April. A growing demand for electric power requires a greater emphasis be placed on grid reliability, and this issue is not included anywhere in the plan update. Finally, conservation of precious water is a prominent theme in the sustainability plan. There is no question that water conservation should be a priority in a sustainability plan. However, I suggested the city could be doing more to have a greater influence on water supply. I believe there are options, and having a say in our water sources is an issue that deserves examination. Once again, the sustainability plan update is a wide-ranging document that does include several realistic and achievable goals that will improve our city economics and our quality of life. However, because the plan includes too many unsupported assumptions, while at the same time it excludes three very important issues at the foundation of a policy for sustainability, I cannot support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to take a moment to just say thank you and recognize the members of the Sustainability Committee and Mary and staff and all the folks that have done so much hard work in this. This report is very impressive, and I do believe that this is exactly where we should be going into our next chapter in Wheat Ridge. I appreciate specifically the weaving of equity into the entire document, into the entire report, because that is something that, as you all know, we're focusing on different ways here in the city, but that's important. And also the mention of Vision Zero, very important also. But overall, just really like to appreciate all the work and time and acknowledge that. And I'm not saying that just because I was a Green Business Award winner. That was before I was on council. But I am very grateful that we do have a green business program, and I look forward to seeing that growing and being successful. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mayor Starker. I just want to thank everybody who did work on this. This is, I think, a great document, and I think oftentimes in the city we have to have a guiding document to create the steps. And so I'm super excited. As all things with this city, we can come back and improve it over time, and I'm just very excited about it. And I do want to respectfully disagree with one of my colleagues in that it is a crisis. And I work in a Department of Environmental Science. I also run a farm, and all of the things are happening, and I can tell you they happen every day at a farm as far as lack of water and things like that. So I really appreciate, to me, we have to have a guiding document that acknowledges these things in order to start responding as a community. So thank you very much for your work. I'll be supporting this, and really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilor Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to say thank you to our volunteers who have, many of them, been here from day one for countless hours in their own free time and through their passion have marched us down this road. I would completely disagree that City Council did not support the prior plan. We did support it. However, we were looking at budgetary needs and staffing needs, and at the time our police department needed staffing, and we didn't have the money to get staffing for our environmental sustainability. You have to make hard choices sometimes around budget time. However, we did ask the committee at that time if they could still be dedicated and committed to it, if they could still do the work, and we said that we would find them some leadership and some staff further down the road, which we have done, and that's where we're at. And I appreciate you guys hanging in there and doing that work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again to all of the residents and volunteers that worked on this. I have been really supportive around the intentions and have really appreciated the grassroots efforts and just the organic nature of how everything has come to be about. I really am concerned with the implications, particularly around new businesses and development, and how this might inform policy moving forward in requiring energy efficiencies, or codes that would increase the costs of construction in an already difficult economy. So while I overall agree with many of the points, particularly around the community and neighborhood efforts, I really have a hard time specifically imposing this on our already hurting business community, particularly those small business owners, and would fear that upgrading their property or trying to attract a developer into the community, this might inform policy moving forward that would negatively affect that. So while I support it overall and the intent behind it, I am concerned about adopting it formally and putting it into policy to guide policy in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting this. I want to first thank staff. I know staff has put a lot of hard hours into this, and my co-counselor routine and all the volunteer work. This is the type of document that everybody worked really hard to go forward, and we have to keep moving forward. And this is something that we need to adopt. As far as the water conservation, I see every day at how that water supply is dwindling, especially downstream from us, and that it's going to take every community to come together, not just Wheat Ridge, but and I think Wheat Ridge has done a good job of showing leadership when it comes to water conservation and when it comes to sustainability. I think this is something that it's going to take time, and there might be some small changes as we learn, more efficient systems. But this is something that I'm definitely going to be voting for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mayor. Something I'd like to point out that I think is unique to the sustainable Wheat Ridge work is that it is one of the most measurably successful areas of work that we do, in that literally everything that's in here is measurable, and oftentimes is measurable at a net benefit to the city. The amount of grant funding that we have drawn in through our sustainability efforts in certain years has actually been a net positive for the city. And upon adoption of this, we will actually be able to draw down a lot more federal dollars. And one of the things that Wheat Ridge has really excelled at in the last couple of years is leveraged available federal funding, so that as we look at our budget situation in the upcoming couple of years, this actually positions us to do more with our funding. So I think when we think about this, not just as sustainable policy, but as being conservative and accountable to our citizens for how we're spending our tax dollars, I will say of everything we pass, this is one that has the most accountability and accounting and measurability and net benefits that we can actually point a finger to and track. So I think it's one of the things that makes it great, and the one that we've been working off the last couple of years. The metrics is actually, we've gotten national recognition for the work that we've done in this space. So to not robustly continue with that would, I think, not be in alignment with what our citizens have said is important to them. And I think, there's some points that have been made here about things that should be in here, or maybe some of the things that aren't exactly in alignment. And that's what our study sessions are for. And I know we talked a little bit about the grid resiliency and the undergrounding of utilities, and it was discussed that this isn't the document where that shows up. I think as a council, we should remain committed to that. And I think that's something that we could bring forward as a study session around how we more proactive with the Public Utilities Commission and Excel around being partners to ensure that our community isn't subjected to some of the grid resiliency issues that we've seen throughout the state. So I definitely support us as a council, being committed to that. But anyway, I just wanted to respond to a couple points that were made tonight. And I think the measurability and the net benefit that this creates to the city is one of the unique aspects of sustainable policy. So thank you.
Thank you. Cook. Pardon me, will the clerk please poll the council?
Six ayes, 2 nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will go now to agenda item number 5. Councillor Snell, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a motion to accept permanent easements and temporary construction easements from property owners adjacent to the intersection of 26th Avenue and Harlan Street. At issue, city staff is working with the city of Edgewater to design and construct a roundabout at the intersection of 26th Avenue and Harlan Street. A roundabout would slow speeding vehicles, improve opportunities for pedestrians to cross 26th Avenue, and enhance the existing bike lanes along 26th Avenue. It is necessary to acquire portions of private property in order to construct the roundabout. Temporary easements for use during construction are also required. 2 of the properties where land is needed are located in Wheat Ridge. Therefore, the needed land must be accepted by the city as permanent and temporary easements.
Thank you. This will be a motion of the council. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We discussed this a few weeks ago in study session when we talked about roundabouts. So no further presentation this evening, but our Public Works Director is here this evening if you have questions.
Okay, thank you. I have no members of the public signed up to speak on this, so I will go to questions from council. Councillor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it indicates that the property owners are donating the land, is that correct, or giving the land?
There is some, they're not receiving money in return for it, but we are doing some improvements to their property. For example, on the northwest corner, we're replacing the fence and then doing some tree trimming. And then on the northeast corner, we're replacing their sign, which needs to be removed because it's within the easement area. So there are costs to the project related to that, but there will be no direct compensation to the property owners.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick question. I know that this involves another municipality, Edgewater. First off, are we continuing having discussions with Edgewater on this? Is this an ongoing topic, or is it just sort of, okay, here's what we're doing?
They're actually leading this effort. So
Okay.
they've taken the lead on the design, and they will oversee the construction as well. So it's really been Edgewater that's kind of determined the schedule, and our goal is to get the easements in place. We'll probably bid the project, or Edgewater will, in probably November, December timeframe, and then they'll start construction sometime probably early spring. So it's really a project that's being led by Edgewater, and we will reimburse them for our share of the costs once the project is over. So you'll see probably in a few weeks here an IGA with an intergovernmental agreement between Wheat Ridge and Edgewater related to this project as well.
And do we know if Edgewater has been able to approach their property owners about the easements?
Yes, so they need to acquire property on the southwest and southeast corners, and there have been in those discussions, and they presented the easement documents to those property owners as well.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this item? I had one, Director DeAndrea. These types of roundabouts or circles offer an opportunity for some visual impacts in the center of the circle. Is there anything fun planned for this location?
Not at this time. So staff has been talking, and we're potentially going to use this as a public art installation, either through Edgewater or Wheat Ridge. So it has the potential for that. In the beginning, right now, what's planned is just a grassed area, but with the potential for something in the future.
Are we going to irrigate the grass, irrigated?
No, it'll be more of a wild seed native mix that'll be put in there.
Non-irrigated native grasses.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions before we go to a motion? Okay, thank you. Councillor Snell, may I have a motion on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to accept permanent easements and temporary construction easements from property owners adjacent to the intersection of 26th Avenue and Harlan Street.
We have a motion and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Stites. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. I just first want to say thank you to staff, the city of Wheat Ridge, and our neighbor, city of Edgewater. This is a really good project, and I'm really fortunate that we have such good neighbors that can, work together on a project like this on roundabouts. Very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Snell.
Just another thank you. I'm happy to be working with Edgewater. They are, pardon the pun, a little bit further down the road with the roundabouts, and so I am happy that we're working with them. I know that this is a street that we share on our border, and I know that just even recently we've gotten some correspondence from some residents concerned with speeding and just overall bad traffic behavior, driver behavior in the area that this may affect. And so I'm really happy for us as a community to be able to move forward with this, to do some serious traffic calming. So thank you so much for all the work.
Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And to add on to that, I would think that a project like this should give our public works folks some good experience on building roundabouts, because we have a few in our future.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is item number 6. Councilor Larson, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. This is it's a motion to cancel the November 4th, 2024 City Council study session. At issue, the City Council study session of November 4th, 2024 currently coincides with the week of the upcoming November 2024 election. The City of Wheat Ridge has signed an intergovernmental agreement to run a concurrent election with Jefferson County. The Wheat Ridge City Council chambers is an advertised Jefferson County polling place. As such, the City Council chambers will require election equipment, election judges, and the utmost security to ensure a valid election free from protest. It is for these reasons that staff and the City Clerk's office request to cancel the November 4th, 2024 City Council study session.
This will be a motion of the council. It is not quasi-judicial. Mr. Goff, do you have anything further to add to that? Okay, I have no one from the public signed up to speak on this, so do any councilors have any questions on this item? It's reasonably self-explanatory. Then, Councilor Larson, may I have a motion on item number 6?
Yes, Mayor. I move to cancel the November 4th, 2024 City Council study session.
We have a motion and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Stites. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda item. We will now go to city manager's matters. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll defer my comments until after the special study session.
Okay, thank you very much. City attorney's matters. Mr. Vella.
Thank you. I do have one matter. I was asked to just respond to a concern about a phrase that's in ballot question 2C, which, as you know, has to do with the height limitations on the Lutheran campus. The phrase that is of concern, it's in the proposed question, and it would be in the charter if approved. And that's the phrase, without modifying any current zoning on the property, preserving existing height and density limitations in the Code of Laws unless and until modified through future ordinances approved by the City Council after public hearings. That's the phrase at the end of the question, which, as council knows, requests the adjustment of height restrictions within the Lutheran campus. And I'll tell you this about that language. It's identical to language in 2 other subsections of the charter. Council might recall that the charter was amended to provide for the changing and adjusting of height limitations in the various urban renewal authority areas in the city, the town center, the Wadsworth corridor, the West 44th Avenue, and the I-70 Kipling. And this language is present in those 2 charter sections as well. And it's there for the reason that it emphasizes and makes clear that the charter provision, and if approved, this new one, if approved, does not create a rezoning and doesn't create, and rezonings are what establish height restrictions within the charter's limitations on property. But merely the charter itself does not create a rezoning of property. In this phrase is basically saying the authority of council would have authority to adjust height within the limitations proposed in the ballot question. And as I say, it's identical to language that has been in the charter for some time for those urban renewal areas. And lastly, I would say that there's no citywide council authority to amend or to change height restrictions above what the charter says as a result of this phrase. In fact, it's actually the reverse, which is that the authority, if granted, is restricted to the Lutheran campus, and the charter and the council would still have to act on rezoning to approve any particular heights within the Lutheran campus, again, within the adjusted height limitations that are proposed in ballot question 2C. So that's the thumbnail sketch that I can offer you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dahl.
Thank you.
We'll go to elected officials matters. We'll start off with Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Mr. Dahl providing some clarifications on what the ballot measures are actually addressing. And it's my understanding that nothing that is on the ballot this fall actually addresses the density of the sites. Is that correct? It's
That's
just
correct. This is height only.
Yeah. So the comments that were made about density were also not correct. I bring that up. I mean, this is an election season. Everybody please vote, register. You can actually register the day of election day and vote the day of. It's incredibly important to vote, but it's also incredibly important to be informed about what you're voting. And even more so, we're elected officials. We have, I think a higher level of obligation around accurate information. But this is a time when there's just a lot of misinformation that's flying about, whether it's a local election or statewide, national. And I think, anyone who is going to be a voice on a specific ballot initiative or a candidate really needs to make sure that they know what they're talking about and that they're representing it accurately. When we referred to the ballot, I don't know, a month ago, that night, I just reminded everybody that it's incumbent on our citizens and community leaders to be accurate conveyors of information. It's okay to have a position one way or the other in favor or against, but to provide misinformation is a disservice to the whole community. And as an elected official who has walked many districts many times, I can't tell you how much misinformation is corrected on people's front doorsteps. Because they've heard, from somebody they've trusted who's told them something that's just flat out not correct. So I think we heard a lot of things earlier tonight that, just weren't accurate. And so I really encourage everybody, there's great information on the city's website on What's Up Wheat Ridge. You can go learn what the ballot initiatives are, what the cleanup of the charter does. It actually also cleans up the single gender that's in there. It actually gets rid of like a unigender charter. And there are things in our charter when it was first written that were tied to when it was enacted, and some of the just rhythms of our civic life then were addressed in the charter that no longer even apply now. So it's a modernization of the charter. It doesn't fundamentally take away rights of our citizens. In fact, it brings it more in line with what our citizens can do and should expect from us. So just reminding everybody, double check your facts. It's okay to have opinions on either side of things. Just make sure they're accurate. And I just always appreciate voting season. I'll say it again, get your ballots in. They should be in your mailbox. So, all right, thanks.
Councilor Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'll wait until after the special study session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Dozie.
Nothing at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would like to emphasize, again, the importance of watching your mailbox. Everybody's ballot should have arrived. I got mine over the weekend. And If yours doesn't arrive in the mail in a day or two, I would contact the county clerk and find out why you haven't received it yet, because you should. There are a number of important issues coming up this election, and if you're paying attention, then you should have a good idea how you want to vote and vote your own conscience. But I would also recommend that in the famous words of one of my heroes, Elmer Fudd, be very, very careful of what you believe on social media.
Thank you. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say to the public that please, fact check everything. There has been some misinformation out there, which is disappointing. And, if you have questions, it's like, ask your council representative. If it's a state issue, we get the blue books. There's information online. The city has a lot of great resources. And so really I would just implore the public to, if you have questions, ask the questions and try to find some answers from more than one source. And the city has a lot of good information on the websites. And definitely reach out to your council representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to just clarify a couple of the statements that were made earlier tonight. Mr. Dahl, can you verify a few things? That the change to the word resident does not change that only citizens can participate in an election?
No, that's correct. If you're eligible to vote, you're eligible to vote, and your residency, your citizenship status isn't relevant to that. It's your residency.
Yeah. So us changing the wording to resident doesn't affect any of those things. And the second thing I'd like to clarify is there was something said about the number of people in a house, and I know that you and I have had lots of conversations about that. And could you just explain that is a law that's at the federal level?
Actually, federal and state levels. Actually, the state legislature in the last session adopted a statute that prohibits the limitation, and it's a part of the kind of the broad-based effort of the state legislature that you're aware of to encourage housing opportunities throughout the state. And they have a statute on accessory dwelling units, among other things, and many other programs. This is part of that statewide large push to address housing, and this particular bill prohibits the imposition by local governments, including the city, of restrictions on a residency based upon familial status. And it is true that historically we've had, most zoning codes would say, all right, you're limited to three X number of unrelated persons, but there's no limit on the number of persons related by blood, marriage, or adoption. And that's a familial status. So what the state statute really mandates is that we eliminate those restrictions. In practice, I will tell you, and it's being seen throughout the state, in practice, really the building code and occupancy, building safety, residential safety codes, electrical codes, et cetera, plumbing codes, have the practical effect of achieving really density limitations that really obviate the need to have these things in local codes. And when you think about it, if a family of 12 Norwegians tries to fit into a 3-bedroom house, and that's okay, they wouldn't be able to. Again, because they're allowed to under the code, or were, no longer. We don't refer to family status, but instead, these other restrictions that have the effect, when you're done, of really dictating how many people can be in that home. And I think that the state statute really recognizes that practical reality.
Thank you. And just to clarify, neither of those issues is actually being discussed or changed in the ballot initiative that we are presenting.
That is correct.
This fall.
They are not addressed in the ballot initiative at all.
Thank you so much. And we got to watch those Norwegians. I always appreciate
Yeah, you do, you know.
your examples. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Counselor Hoppy.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll agree with all my colleagues that voters really need to look at the flyers, think about it a little bit, and then check the source, because if it's the same, if it looks the same as the flyer that came out a year ago and the year before that and a year before that and a year before that, and it was no on everything then and it's no on everything now, the message is the same, and the research is unfortunately the same, because many of the facts that we heard tonight and many of the things that we heard and can read in the flyer is very inaccurate. And I had the fortune of spending Saturday morning guest hosting Coffee with the Mayor, and 2C and 2B were big topics during that. And the 12 or 13 people that were there really had some good questions about it based on some of the things they've seen on social media, some of the flyers they've received, and we were able to go through that. And I believe, and like we've all seen, I believe anybody who's actually had 2C explained to them and what is trying to be done at the Lutheran campus has really been supportive of it. It's the people who have not taken the time or been given a lot of misinformation that are very against it. So I hope that people will take the time to do that, and I hope as counselors we can maybe spend some time and go out and help educate the public as much as possible, because this is really a big deal for our community. Another thing I was able to do a couple weeks ago was step in and present our council partnership award at the Business Awards breakfast, and we gave that to the Clear Creek Makerspace, and Makerspace has been a fantastic partner for us and for the city and for the city staff. So we want to thank the Makerspace for being an awesome economic catalyst for the area and for the county. Also, I want to recognize our two Business of the Years. Lutheran Hospital is our big Business of the Year this year, and I think we can all tell why. They've done a fantastic, built a brand new facility. It's going to be a huge catalyst for our city. And then I also want to recognize, and one of our big favorites is Clancy's Irish Pub, longest running Irish pub in Colorado, I believe, and absolutely phenomenal owners, Jeff and Liz and Joey, all do phenomenal job there. So really want to thank Clancy's. And as long as we're talking about businesses, if you think about 2C and you think about all those businesses that we have existing here in Wheat Ridge, they all need more customers. I haven't walked into any business that has said, hey, I've got enough customers, hey, leave me alone, I'm good. So think about that as you're voting on 2C, and think about those small business owners, not the Starbucks of the world, but the small business owners on 38th, 26th, 29th, Youngfield, Kipling, 44th. All of those businesses need those customers in order to stay alive. So, and that helps keep our business alive, or keep our city alive. That's how we pay for everything as sales tax here in the city. So please support 2C, please support 2B, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stites, and I want to thank you for taking my place on Saturday. Appreciate you stepping in and having a good meeting second Saturday with the mayor. I want to follow up on your Wheat Ridge Business Awards. We, the city, in conjunction with the business associations and the chambers of commerce, put this on an annual basis. We really recognize new businesses and old businesses that are in Wheat Ridge, and it's, I have the honor to MC that event, and it was really a great event. Steve Art puts a lot of work into that with a lot of members of our staff, so I want to congratulate them and thank them. And it's really impressive when you look out and see the number of new businesses and and the energy that our business community generates in our community, and we appreciate that. I had the pleasure to help in a ribbon cutting ceremony for Lutheran Hospital, a new medical office building that's right adjacent to their new hospital, and it's really a beautiful facility. Councilor Larson was there, and several of you were there, and I really appreciate Lutheran being there. They've been a great partner for us, and we look forward to continuing to work with them in the future. I have a word that from Director DeAndrea that Wadsworth Boulevard is at 75% of completion, so we're really moving forward on that. That's been, as you all know, a long time coming, but it's really looking good. They're doing, I think, some of the last major sections of paving this week, and we're really glad that we've got some great fall weather to be able to lay that down, and really looking forward to having a great new boulevard through our town. So that's all that I have. We are going to have a special study session start right after this meeting. Is there any further business that we need to conduct before we adjourn and open our study session? So I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and we will move just directly into our study session. And the great screen from above is descending upon us.
Oz.
Thankfully,
It's starting to look like
right
Oz,
there. It
Mayor.
doesn't go too far.
You're starting to look like Oz with that mustache.
Okay. All right, I would like
Were
to
there
call,
snow cones brought into the,
we're not quite there yet, but
you
we're
all
getting
bring
there.
snow cones? It's okay. No, I was born in New Orleans, so I was very excited.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Looking forward. Oh, thank you.
I want to call to order the special study session for the City Council for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for October 14th, 2024. We have one item on our agenda tonight, which is the sale of excess city property at 38th Avenue and Johnson Street. We will start our meeting as we usually do with any comments from the public. I have no one signed up to speak on this, so we will move past that part of the agenda, and I will go to Mr. Goff for a staff presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing us to bring this forward this evening. I believe it's a very exciting project you will all like. The city was recently approached by Wheat Ridge residents Kyle and Aaron Ballou, who are here this evening, right here, my neighbors, for proposed retail development at the southwest corner of 38th and Johnson, next to Discovery Park. I think most of you know the city does own this parcel. It was determined excess property when the Discovery Park was developed back in 2008, 2009. The property at that time, in 2008, was this remnant parcel was rezoned to planned commercial development. Permitted uses on the subject property include limited a range of neighborhood-oriented businesses, including office, personal services, eating establishments, retail limited to 5,000 square feet. The proposed retail use, which you'll hear about tonight, would be a permitted use. The city's charter does require a 3/4 approval by city council to sell city-owned property. Although there was an extensive process in 2008 and 2009 to rezone and designate this property for commercial use, it's still identified in the current Park and Rec Master Plan as parkland, which I believe was an oversight. The city charter requires a unanimous vote of city council to sell parkland. If council chooses to move forward with the sale of this parcel, staff does have several options. Mr. Dahl has some comments on the legality of if this is parkland or commercial land, so we will talk through that. But first, I would like to invite Kyle and Aaron up to present their vision for this project to you this evening. You have some graphics on your screen, but you can come to the podium. Introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what your vision is.
Of course, thank y'all for having us tonight. I'm Aaron Ballou.
Kyle Ballou.
My husband. I grew up in New Orleans. I've been in Colorado for 20 years now, but we still go back several times a year. We bring the kids. We have a 3- and 6-year-old boys, and we go back to visit my family. And every time we're there, we hit up the snowball stands. And so then we get back here, and they're like, we want to go to the snowball stands. And there are some trailers, there are some shaved ice trailers and that sort of thing, but there's not this feel, this community, a place to go hang out, have an ice cream, have a snowball, sit outside, gather. And the thing that we like best about this property is it being right by the park, in between some schools, easy walkable. Our son is at Prospect Valley. We could bike there, and we live 2 blocks away. We're at Hoyt. We back up to the Wheat Ridge High School track, so we're right there. And so we just love this property, kind of where it's at. And again, I grew up with this, and so this is definitely a passion of mine. I worked at a snowball stand for 6 years growing up. So I know all about snowballs. And I have taught him about snowballs.
Thank you for having us and taking some extra time on this. I know it was kind of a little last minute addition, but the property that this is, or that we hope this is on is, we just think it's perfect for something like this. From what we've talked about with Wheat Ridge residents and just the feel of everything, trying to activate that as an extension of the park and really a community gathering spot. You know, there's definitely some trash that acquires there. The bus stop can get some things that happen. So I think trying to finish that off, if it's with the vision that you all and the Wheat Ridge citizens like, is just a win-win. We're super excited for it, being in our neighborhood and activating the space. I think it could be a great cash infusion to the city for budgetary other stuff and property taxes, et cetera, for something that really, we're just the community gathering spot of where Aaron grew up is, it's every time you go, there's 30 people and they're all there eating snowballs, but just talking to each other. And in this day and age, I think we can use more of that. And that's what we're most excited about, is to meet all the people and just kind of bring back some of the old times that you used to think about when you think about an ice cream stand and stuff like that. So.
And you always see people going after like sporting practice and stuff like that. And again, we're right back up to the high school. We're seeing football practice going on, track practice going on weekends, band practice, like, you know, to be able to walk someplace like that with the family afterwards is just, to us, would be really special.
So if you guys have some questions, we can field that. We can kind of give you an overall, just as far as, I don't know if you have a picture up of the site plan or can, or if you guys know the property, there's kind of an existing parking lot. It looks like one, yeah. So that's an image that where the cars are is really an existing parking area, which we would keep there. There's some really good parking in there, and then there'd be parking on the curb. So we'd also we wouldn't try to do an entrance off of 38. I think that's a big thing because of traffic coming into Apple Ridge is already congested and it just doesn't need it. So that would, I think, help as well. And then it's going to be a pretty small footprint as far as the building. We're looking at maybe 1,500 to 2,000, so well under the zone district, but a lot of outdoor activation space that you can see on here with maybe some lighting, some almost kind of canvas, picnic tables, outdoor games. Again, just really a community gathering spot to come grab something and see it. So.
Thank you. When we look at the graphic, is Johnson Street on the bottom?
Yes.
Okay, so Johnson Street's on the bottom, and I think that would be 38th Avenue on the right-hand side?
Yes.
Okay, just to orient us. So questions from council? Councilor Weaver.
I love this. Having spent a lot of time as well at places like this in New Orleans, it's what many of us have hoped for, I think, on this corner. I have a little bit of background with this, having been on council for a while, with this parcel, and I just think this is a perfect use for it. A few years ago, there was an issue because I think there was a CVS or something that wanted to go in there, and obviously people were not, maybe not obviously, but people were not excited about that. And I think this is the right thing in a great place, and it's walkable and bikeable and parkable if people want to do that. And I'd love to figure out, I mean, this extension, there's been some argument about, well, should this be part of the park? And it doesn't make any sense for it to be part of the park as far as what the history of this parcel was. So I am fully in support of figuring out. So I guess my question to the city is, they would buy this property. So this would stop being
Correct.
A remainder.
This thing.
Yeah, and the Parks Department has designated this as excess property. It's not needed for Discovery Park.
Yeah.
It's not needed for our park inventory. We would just as soon get rid of it. And honestly, the intent was for this to sell it for commercial use.
I think it's a great buffer as well. So, the right thing in the right place. And then we can stop talking about this parcel of land. So that's how I feel.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Rome.
Thank you, Mayor. Where did Is Director Deandra still here, or she just leave?
I think she's here, but, or no, she's gone. She's gone.
Okay, well, it's a study session, huh? So the one concern, or the question I was gonna ask her was, what's the condition of the parking lot? Because I'm looking at a Google aerial, and I don't know if it's gravel right now, or is it asphalt?
Yeah, this is, again, a very, very early
Yeah,
concept. This would all have to go through community development and planning. And it would have to go through the planning commission for final approval. So it would not come back to city council. But, so I think there are requirements for parking lot surfacing, and different things like that. So-
In what I'm driving at, and there's another issue of, it looks like there's some type of drainage structure on that north side that's existing,
Yep,
is,
there is.
I don't have any objection per se to the concept, what this is, the selling of the property. I have no objection to that. But what I wonder, what I would ask Director Deandra is, like, is this going to, it looks like there's very little hardscape on this property. And I know if there's a certain amount that then it triggers more detention. And so perhaps this may not trigger it because it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of hardscape.
Of impervious or pervious surface,
Yeah,
impervious
impervious.
surface.
Yeah, so that's, and
Yeah.
I know that's a little more detail, but I don't want everybody to get
Yeah, no.
detentions, get super excited, and it's like, well, now we gotta have this expensive detention.
And Kyle's very familiar with that. I believe Kyle is a developer and is currently building townhomes in Wheat Ridge. So I think he's familiar with the city's processes.
Great question. I actually already talked to the head of the civil department, Rocky McSalka, and have a great relationship with Rocky. There is an inlet and a kind of a natural retention area on the north side of there. There'd probably need to be a little bit more as far as a buffer from that. With that, our goal is not actually to have a lot of waterable area with this, even though it kind of shows that in the site plan will approve. We want to have kind of a little balance of both, but a lot of artificial turf, but plants and some other things as well to make it really feel like it looks on there. But it's not going to be a lot of grass area that's getting a bunch of irrigation water. So,
thank you.
Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mayor. So there's two questions in front of us, and it is, do you support the concept? And absolutely. I was fortunate enough to be friends with, still am friends with Paul Tamburello when he first conceived of Little Man Ice Cream. And I remember sitting in his office and he pulled open the book and he was like, I've got this little triangle next to in the Olinger property, which actually my dad transacted to Paul. And just like the vision of that little triangle to activate it with just selling ice cream, but like how he doesn't just sell ice cream there. He like created a place where people congregate. And so I'm really excited that that's the vision that comes here, and you don't need a lot of space to really bring people together. So I just am enthusiastic about the vision that you have for the location, and I think it's a great spot for that. And I support working with you on a purchase agreement. And I think it's important for us to flesh out here that we all support this, because if we aren't unanimous in that support, then it's a futile exercise by everybody due to the requirements. I think it's important tonight for all of us to express support so that if we support it, I mean, I'm not saying you have to, I'm not coercing anyone, but I think it's important to walk out of here with that clarity. So I'm an enthusiastic yes, and I'm already waiting for the next 100-degree day so I can come and go over there and have two. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great way to activate that space that is, largely an eyesore the majority of the time. But so I have technical questions though, and I support this, but what I would like to understand is, in moving down the road, is this a unanimous vote necessary, or is it a supermajority vote necessary? And I'm assuming that we will get another look at the property to see valuation on the property too.
I'll start with that first, and then Mr. Dahl can speak to your first questions. We did have an appraisal back, I think clear back in, well,
18.
it was for the CVS property. So it was after the park was developed. I think it was valued at about $450,000 right now. And we've talked about that we should do an update since it's been a few years and see what the value is. Mr. Dahl can speak to what some of the options are on the unanimous versus supermajority vote.
Thank you.
Thanks. And you have the memo in front of you with the second paragraph is the language from the charter, right, which says you can dispose of property, but it's by ordinance in any event. 3/4 if it's not, if it's sort of regular property you happen to have that doesn't have a use, a designated park use, but if it's designated parkland, it's unanimous by ordinance. And it was shared with me that, well, the city isn't really using it. It's kind of access to the park. Nevertheless, it's still on the master plan as parkland. And I can't advise you that it's anything other than designated parkland until you undesignate it. So that leaves you with, not surprisingly, 3 doors for action. It's an ordinance in any event, but, door 1 would be, get 8 votes and pass an ordinance and then you're done. Even though it's designated, it's 8 votes, you can do that. The second door would be, if that's not available, bring forward a motion to sell it with an amendment to the Parks Master Plan, so that it just comes to you at the same time. On that agenda, you amend the Parks Master Plan to undesignate it, and then you can immediately act on the ordinance, or wait until the master plan itself is revised and readopted. So when you're ready for action tonight, obviously you're not adopting a motion, but I think we'd be ready to take direction from you by consensus to bring forward an ordinance to sell it now, which would mean that you contemplate that there would be 8 votes. Door number 2, direct us to bring forward an ordinance to sell the property at the same time as an amendment to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Or door number 3, direct us to wait until the Parks and Rec Master Plan is revised.
Which is probably about April.
Because that's what I was going to ask. I know we're working on that. Now, as we've been kind of fleshing out that master plan, was there already a futuristic thought that piece of land was not going to be included in it?
Correct.
So that's already the road that we're going to be walking down?
Yes.
It just won't be here till April?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give y'all some kudos. It says a lot about having a vision for your community and putting your money where your mouth is. It's one thing to miss things from home, and it's an entirely different thing to put everything into bringing it to where you live now and bringing it to your community. And I think that as a small business owner myself, I totally understand just putting your heart and soul into it because you want it for your community, not just for yourselves. So I'm in support of this, and I just want to give you kudos. I read through the whole thing, and just even your consideration of being a good neighbor to Apple Ridge, it's so well thought out, and I appreciate that as well. Good neighbors are always welcome. So thank you so much for that, and can't wait to have a banana split.
Thank you. Counselor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for presenting this concept. I think it's great. I was disappointed that Apple Ridge wasn't able to make the move because we were not able to agree unanimously on selling off this parkland for the CVS to move in, and then Apple Ridge to move to where Christian Brother Automotive built. However, I think this holdout was actually worked out in our favor, because I think this is a much better use of that space as far as a small business, locals, and would do wonders for activating this area that is definitely an eyesore. I do believe that because I think it was in 2018, correct, when that happened, that since it was designated parkland and we haven't fully adopted the new parks master plan, if we were to move forward, I would feel like it would be the same situation in 2018 where it would require a unanimous vote. And it sounds like we have pretty decent support for that. And I think that this would be an amazing asset and addition to the community. So thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is a great addition to District 3 and that corner. And as a former Everett student myself, it would have been nice to have been able to go across, and as my daughter's about to go there next year, it would be nice for her to be able to go across the street and get a ice cream or something on her way home. So that's really cool. I think I'm the last one to speak on this. So can we get a consensus to move forward
You're
on
not the last.
I'm not the last
Nope.
one? Oh, okay. Well, because I think we can move forward with an
That's
8-0.
okay. Okay, Counselor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And just so I'm clear on this, because it's still a little foggy in my brain. The property is now zoned planned commercial development.
Yes,
And, well, I'm guessing that zoning has been in place for a while,
since 2008.
2008. So the process would be, if we go forward with it, it would be a use by right for what these guys have planned.
Correct. It would require a special SDP to go through Planning Commission. It would not come back to City Council except for the sale agreement.
Okay, no, that answers my question.
Thank you. Counselor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to ask our city attorney, Jerry Dahl, to me, it feels cleaner to sell and amend the plan, also knowing that further on down the road, it wasn't going to be a part of the plan anyways, but it just seems cleaner to sell and amend the plan. And so I just wanted to ask quickly, is that, we would amend the plan, and then after that, we would do the sell. So the way it would line up in the agenda was we would amend the plan and then we would do the sell.
That's right. And that's correct. You'd probably run first reading of the sale ordinance to get that out of the way, but then you'd set for second reading public hearing, you'd have the plan first on that meeting and then the second reading of the sale ordinance.
And I wanted to be very clear that if we amend the plan and that piece of property is no longer considered parkland, and then we accept the sale agreement, that they still then have to go through all of the other steps before they can build it. All of the steps that are required for that property.
Correct. Yeah, they'll have to go through community development, do an SDP, get a specific or site plan. Again, it just goes to Planning Commission though, not to council, because it's already zoned properly.
Properly. I'd like to ask for consensus
Can you wait a minute?
Oh, sure.
Okay. I had a couple of questions. I grew up in the state of Maine, and the snowballs that we had there were apparently different kind of snowballs, because the only time you ate them was whether if they hit your face, you'd kind of lick a little bit. So this is a different kind of product. But tell me, is this something that you envision being open on a 12-month basis throughout the year, or do you think it would close down in the winter, or how do you think that would work?
Yeah, we think we would close down for at least 3 or 4 months. Yeah, probably 3.
Okay.
Just to try to keep it open during the brunt of winter, would not be that many people there. So
I'll also mention the snowball stand I worked at, the owner of it, he's owned it for 50 years. He worked there when he was 11, picking up trash outside, and he and his wife met there. So I've talked to him, and he said, you got to take it away from them. So he's like, with snowballs, he actually closes mid-October, and then he opens up again in March. But again, we figured, it might be a good little respite. Take it away from him. He's like, it's like football. You got to take it away from him for a little bit. So when we discussed that, we're like, do we want to actually close our business doors for, a few months? And we figured, again, during the brunt of winter, how busy is it going to really be, in really January, February, March-ish. So.
And then in terms of the structure that you plan to build, this would be, it would have indoor plumbing, and are you planning on indoor seating or kind of a walk-up sort of arrangement, or?
It would be service windows, so
Okay.
all the seating would really be outside. And then there would be plumbing for the business.
You'd have washrooms for the public?
Yes, yes.
That are using it.
Exterior washrooms.
Okay.
Yep.
Terrific. Okay. So I'm going to do this. So do we have consensus for City Council to support this development proposal?
Just quick clarification, there's 3 doors, and so I'd like to ask for consensus to move through door number 2, which is to amend the park plan and then sell it.
Okay. So do we have consensus to amend the park plan and then put it up for sale? Good. And do we have staff support to work with Kyle and Aaron Blue on the purchase and sale agreement after pending the successful vote on that? Okay. So we have consensus to move ahead. Thank you very much for bringing this.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to throwing some snow cones.
There you go.
I mean eating snow cones. Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, that concludes our, the agenda item that we have on our special study session. We will now go to staff reports. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few quick updates. You may have seen these already in your emails, but we did have the sentencing for the Officer Alan Fisher case. I think some of you are nodding, so you heard about that. But the judge did sentence the convicted Mr. Jones in the case to the maximum sentence, 32 years. So the city's very pleased that justice has been served in that case, and the Fisher family has received a bit of closure. So they're very happy and thank the city for all their support. So Colorado Plus is back open. If you haven't been, they opened Friday, and they have their hand-cut fries back. So specifically for me, Eugene was very nice to bring those back. You got a machine that will actually cut them now, so his employees don't have to cut them.
Oh.
So they had
So they're not,
well, they're not really, they're hand cut, but by a machine.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the machine cut.
So check it out. They had a banging night Friday. That was crazy. They had to turn people away even. So check it out. You all should have received either an electronic copy or a hard copy of your 25 proposed budget book. The public can access the budget on the city's website and at What's Up Wheat Ridge, and the hard copies in the city clerk's office if you want to review it there. We plan to present the budget to you all on October 21st at study session. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, please give Allie or myself a call. We want to make sure that you understand everything that's in there. And then Maria sent out an email, I think last week. So we're working on a schedule for this Wednesday if you want to participate in paving Wadsworth. So I think a couple of you already signed up. So she's working on a schedule sometime between noon and 4 on Wednesday. So you can actually ride along on the big paver when they're laying some of their last concrete for the project. So if you're interested in that, let us know as soon as possible so we can get that scheduled. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have elected officials reports. Raise your hand if you've got a report. Councilor Snell.
Just a couple of things. I wanted to also say, yay, Colorado Plus is open again. Another great business to support, and so glad that Eugene is up and running again. We're grateful to have him. I wanted to also just send some kudos out to our community in general. The Halloween decorations this year are phenomenal. And I think that in light of all of the heavy stuff that I think is on a lot of our minds, with everything going on, it's just maybe people are just throwing themselves into decorating for Halloween, but whatever it is, I love it. And I really am impressed with a lot of the decorations I'm seeing in yards. So just a little fun thing there. And then finally, in the previous regular session, I would like to echo some of my colleagues spoke up and talked about making sure everyone is doing their research and their homework on things that are on our ballot, citywide, statewide, nationally. It's important for us individually to be educated on what we're voting on. It's a great responsibility. And so if there's ever any question on anything, I will just say again, Councilor Ohm said this, but please reach out to your counselors, reach out to someone if you have questions, because these are important issues and really important for our community. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And just real briefly, I'd like to report out that this last Wednesday, I joined a group of volunteers and we visited businesses along West 44th, dropping off the Explore 44 business packages, which include the window stickers and some information about the Explore 44 program. And now that it's up and running, you should see more and more evidence of the business community on 44th coming together to promote that. West 44th is a tremendous place to go and shop.
Thank you. Further elected officials reports. See too many hands up. We will conclude here in a few minutes, but we'll be back here next week for a study session.
For our budget
To
presentation.
discuss the budget. So you have your budget books and your budget,
We'll
your
bring
budget
popcorn.
online non-books. So
We'll bring popcorn.
Study hard. There'll be several quizzes along the way. So if there's no more business to come before this study session, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.